Welcome to Armchair Expert, Experts on Expert. I'm Dan Shepard. I'm joined by Monica Mouse.
Hello.
Hello. We had a great guest on by the name of Dr. Sue Johnson. Oh, before I tell you about Dr. Sue Johnson.
Yes.
So now I am a little nervous that this is going to, the problem we're trying to solve is going to create it again. But here we go.
Yeah.
A lot of people were bummed out they didn't get a robot sweatshirt.
Understandably.
And we did announce it was limited edition.
We did.
And so some people didn't get them. And they were really bummed. I could feel it in the comments. They were bummed. And some people had even set timers and stuff. And then they were just sold out.
It's such a bummer.
So then we had a moral conundrum on our hand. We're like, should we offer more? And then we're like, well, then that violates the original premise that they were limited edition. So I don't know if this is a good or bad solution. But we made 500 more. So now this is really it. We can't, this is, we don't know what to do. This is what we've done.
We decided we didn't make enough even for limited edition.
Yeah.
So we're just finishing.
We're hoping that everyone that was sad, we hope this is the exact number of people that were really bummed.
Right. But also some of you, you're going to have to still be sad because that's the whole point of limited edition.
Oh, okay. So that's that's the hard light of day.
But we're going to give them a little more time and heads up.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. So they go on sale tomorrow, Friday. 10 a.m. Pacific time.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, Friday, if you missed out on it. And then I'm just going to not read comments because then we'll just go into infinity.
Yeah. And if we don't sell these out.
That we deserve that.
Oh, I was going to say we'll be mad at you guys.
No, I'll go. Okay, well, good. We caused this whole thing, and now we're
okay.
So yeah, if they don't sell out, then we'll be changing tires in them for years to come.
They're really nice sweatshirts.
They really are. There's another thing. I did read of some people that were really critical of the price, and I just want to say we're not selling these to make any money. Like we buy really expensive sweatshirts.
We do.
Yeah.
And so, the cost of print, all of it.
We're not, this isn't at all, just trust us, a money-making endeavor.
No.
Yeah. We're getting paid from Spotify.
It's a really, really nice sweatshirt. The first thing I said when I got it, I was like, I like the crew neck.
Yeah.
And the material.
Really nice. Heavy, dense.
It is.
It's beautiful. Okay. Dr. Sue Johnson. Dr. Sue Johnson is a clinical psychologist and best-selling author. She had a wildly successful book called Hold Me Tight. Mm-hmm. And she has a great book called Love Sense. Well, she has a new book, and it's a workbook for Hold Me Tight. It's called the Hold Me Tight Workbook, a couple's guide for a lifetime of love. She's so fun and spunky.
Yeah.
Lots of spunk, right?
Oh, yeah.
We like them spunky.
Sure.
Also very, I don't want to, maybe she wouldn't love this, but just from my point of view, beautiful message in the way John Gottman was.
Yeah.
In the Gottman Institute. Very, very in keeping with that same pursuit of working in a relationship and very beautiful approach.
I agree.
So please enjoy Dr. Sue Johnson.
He's an armchair expert. He's an armchair expert. He's an armchair expert.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you? Nice to meet you. I hear that you're in LA.
I am in LA. It's not the most Christmassy of scenes. We're compensating with too much exterior illumination. We've got a lot of lights everywhere to remind us 'tis the season.
Right. I used to go down to California just after Christmas every year to San Diego to teach for a week. And they'd have some of their Christmas decks up and be like palm trees. And say, no, this doesn't work. Whereas here outside my house, we have enormous, huge fir and pine and a huge juniper tree. The trouble is they're too big to put lights in, so we just put lights around the house.
You just need one of those incredible buckets with the extending arm that the power company has. You just need to rent one.
Oh, all right then. I'll ask the local council to send me one.
You're up in Vancouver Island? Is that where you're at?
Yes. They've just made the most incredible movie that's on Netflix. It's 3 parts, actually, and it's called The Island of the Seawolf. It's about Vancouver Island, and it is so good. It is so stunning.
Well, yeah, Rob hit me with one of the headlines. So the wolves are swimming back and forth between the mainland and the island?
It's the only place in the world where the wolves swim long distances.
Yeah. This is Monica.
Hi, sorry. I am frazzled this morning.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
But the point is that it's quite something, and it blows my mind, and I live here. What it really shows is the beauty of this place that we live in. And when I first moved here 4 years ago,
Moved from England or from where?
Ottawa, where I was at the university.
Okay.
When I first moved here, very bad-tempered, it was my husband's idea. I was out in my garden, in January with no snow, so I was still bad-tempered. But people would walk by and say, "Oh, you're new." And I would say, "Oh, yes, nice to meet you," which is different already because everyone on the island talks to you. And they'd say, "Oh, welcome to paradise."
Ah.
And at first of all, I thought, that's cheesy.
Or maybe even / arrogant.
But then after a few weeks, I thought, that's right.
Now, does the dampness get to you ever?
No, if I'm feeling down, I go down on the beach that's about 4 minutes from my house and I look across at the Olympic Mountains in your country with the snow, and there's always a line of cloud and there's sea. I think this is a sacred, blessed place. So people here are very protective of the environment.
Sure. When did you leave England? I'm presuming you're from England. Your accent seems the ring of Englishness.
I can't get rid of it. I left when I was 22. I escaped, actually. I didn't leave.
Would that be escaping under the rule of Margaret Thatcher? Is that the regime you were escaping?
No, it was more than that. It was escaping from my experience of English culture. I was an English working class kid born in a pub.
Nuh-uh.
Wow.
Born in a pub.
Yeah, and I didn't speak like this. By a series of accidents we won't go into, I was a poor English working class kid sent to a posh Catholic school where I didn't fit. And not only that, but I spoke like that. I spoke Cockney,
Oh, I like that. I like that.
like that, right?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my mother wanted me to go to this posh school to lose my accent.
Okay. She had aspirations for you.
The aspiration was that I could marry a man with a suit.
Uh-huh. Sure. Okay, what year did you graduate high school?
What year did I graduate high school? You're asking me difficult questions. Bloody hell.
Yeah. No, this is a landmark date in your head. This should be an easy one.
I left university in 68. I was too young. My headmistress, who was this 6'5" nun, who was the most terrifying human being I've ever met, told me, "You will wait 2 years and take the entrance exams to Oxford." And the bravest thing I've ever done in my life is say, "No, sister." The only university that would take me because I was too young was Hull, which is the most horrible place. It's a fishing port halfway up the east side of England.
But you probably fit in better there.
I did actually, because the working class students who were on scholarship all kind of got together and helped each other fit in more. But my experience of England was that it was restrictive and I felt like I was in a prison as an English working class woman. I just wanted out. And so it was Australia or Canada.
Presumably you majored in psychology?
No, I didn't even know psychology existed. The world was different. That nun said to me, "Now you may choose. You will study English literature or history." So in this case, I said, English literature.
I'll take English lit.
And I didn't know anything about psychology. I knew nothing. But the best way to learn about people and psychology is to read thousands of novels.
Yes, a great author is one that somehow mastered psychology without maybe even learning about it.
That's right.
Let's geek out for 1 second. What's the high watermark for you?
I remember being obsessed with George Eliot and Middlemarch. But to tell you the truth, I think the reason I was obsessed with her was because in Victorian England, she was a relatively ugly woman. She was tall and she was not good looking. She broke all the rules. She lived with a man for years and years and years. Then when he died, she married a much younger man.
Scandalous.
And she always wore black.
Ooh.
And just before I left, I used to walk through the woods in Guildford and go to the pub she used to go to and sit in her seat beside the fire.
Oh, wonderful.
So in a way, she was a model. She said to me, "You don't have to obey the rules. You can make your own rules." And for me, that was like, because when my father announced to people that I would go to university, my relatives all got together and all agreed that this was exceedingly foolish.
Yeah, at that time, completely pointless. All you'll do is emasculate your future husband with your knowledge.
Dax, that's much too sophisticated. My uncles didn't say that. They said, that's a stupid idea. What's all this book learning going to get you? What you need is to get married. And the only one who supported it at all was my father, who I don't know where he got his, whatever you want to call it.
Progressiveness at that point.
That's right. Where he got his wisdom, I don't know. But he always told me, you can be whoever you want to be. You can do whatever you want.
Dads
God bless him.
They have the ability to change the world.
Yeah, one little girl at a time.
I came to Canada in my 20s.
Were you serious?
No, I was having fun. And I met all these people who told me that they were something called hippies.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And I said, what's a hippie? And they all rolled around roaring with laughter and said, you're cute. Do you want to come and live in the basement of our student house for $10 a month? And I said, sure. Everyone was dropping acid.
Yes, free love.
Yeah. And for me, coming from England, it was like,
oh, that's a 180 right there.
Yeah. And I got bored with English literature really fast. I was doing an MA. I told the head of department I couldn't do a thesis. It bored me to death. He got very angry. And I did some acting with a company that's still happening in Vancouver. And I then needed a job. I saw this ad and it said that this residential treatment center in the middle of the city for disturbed adolescents needed something called a childcare counselor. I had no idea what it was. I applied, I got the job, and I walked into this place where there were 3 cottages with about 10 kids in each cottage. They were the most traumatized, the most acting out kids in the province that nobody else could handle.
All 10 on the ACE scorecard?
Oh, yeah, like you wouldn't believe. And we were given just a little bit of training and then said, okay, start to run groups, work with families and counsel these kids. I had no idea what I was doing.
Right. You got this literature degree.
And then I started going in my spare time to school and doing psychology. But the training I had was that I was an English working class kid. And when I was 4 years old, I wasn't playing. I was put on a stool behind the bar and I was told, you rinse the glasses. I can still do it in my sleep. Rinse the glasses 3 times. Wipe it on a towel. Look and see if it's good. Put it on the shelf. So I used to stand and do this. But of course, what I did was watch.
Yes. You had the best show in town.
People might say now, oh my God, that's so inappropriate for a kid. But I was totally safe because my father was there, my mother was there. I never felt at risk. But I watched men and women flirt. Everyone was auntie and uncle. My favorite auntie was the pub prostitute, Auntie Nancy. She was lovely. I loved her. And she was so pretty. But I understood that she was sort of different with the guys.
Ironically, let's pause at the prostitute. Again, this will be dicey to say, but potentially the most liberated woman you were observing.
Maybe. All I know is she was lovely. And I watched men fight. I watched men trigger each other. I watched men who I realize now had PTSD from the war get a little drunk and suddenly start to cry. My father was like a therapist. I don't know where he got all this from. He was very calm and big, and he used to put his hands on somebody's hands and say, okay now, Pete, you are going to come with me into the back room and we're going to just talk for a little bit, okay? Let's do that. And if he couldn't do that, sometimes on a Friday night, when a big fight happened, he'd walk around, he'd try to calm everyone down. If he couldn't, this sounds funny, but this is the way I experienced it. He would look at the person who was being the most belligerent and he would sort of hold him gently by the shoulder and pop him.
Yeah. Nice gentleman's night-night.
And as a child, I would go, wee, because the man would go, splat. And then my father would pick him up, take him into the back room. And I watched the emotional music and the dances they were caught in. And I learned to tune in to that and not the content of the conversations, because the pub was like a community. The same people would come in every day, okay, and talk to my dad, and they'd say basically the same thing, exactly the same thing sometimes. And I remember listening to this. And so I realized very young that the content wasn't the point. The content was like, oh, hello, Sid, how are you? I'm fine, Arthur, I'm fine. Oh, nice day, isn't it? Yes, it's a nice day. See, so this is the English conversation. But Sid had lost his wife and he was alone. And Sid's face would change after a drink and he'd start to sort of rub his hand round his glass. And my father would reach across and touch his elbow and say, there, it's okay. Right. And so I watched this emotional dance. I think I was safe because I was behind the bar. My father was there, so I could look in safety.
Right. It wasn't directed at you, so you could observe without the heightened adrenaline arousal state. And I bet half of your gift that you picked up there was everything that's not being said, everything that's in the air, everything that's transferring mirror neuron to mirror, all this invisible stuff, you actually get quite articulate in. And when you're talking to a young man in this home who certainly doesn't have the verbiage to communicate with you, you're probably seeing much of the story without his help.
The first young man I was given to work with, believe it or not, wouldn't talk at all. So I would talk, and then gradually Lee started to talk. But at first I thought, what on earth do I do with this?
Right.
But then when I went and decided to do my doctorate, I'd be sitting in these formal classes with these professors putting out these theories. And I, from my experience with these kids and in the pub, I was the rebel student who would say, excuse me, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, the theory is interesting, but that's not what people do.
Yeah, you started in reverse almost. People generally grab the theoretical and then they put it into practice and they start discovering stuff. But you had done it practically. Then we're learning the theories.
That's right. I still love doing therapy with individuals, not so much with couples. I did so many couples over the years. The thing I learned was to listen and learn from my clients. And every client I see expands me as a human being. Every client I see, I learn from. And I think those kids taught me that, because I didn't know what I was doing. So I had to say to them, what's happening for you right now?
How do you fight the urge to not categorize? As you have a patient, to me, it would be quite tempting to go, oh, right, this is that thing. I know how that works. How are you open to each one potentially having something new when our brains are so categorical? You must fight it, right?
No, I don't have to fight that. But that's a very profound question, because our approach, which, is now 40 years old and I think has revolutionized the field of couple therapy. I know it has. And now we're doing a whole bunch of things with individual therapy and families, which we always did, but we never wrote about it. Our approach is to always step past categories, to look at the process. For example, a client came to me and she said, well, I'm depressed. Everyone agrees I'm depressed. I'm chronically depressed. I'm also this and that. And I've been told I'm borderline, I'm OCD. And so I start talking to her about her life and her story and how she feels. And as I go deeper into her emotions, what we come up with together is that when she uses that word, depression, which is just a label.
It's an adjective, really.
Yeah, it's her prefrontal cortex giving me a label. She's just talking about her experience. She's on the surface. When she uses that word, if she tunes into her emotions, the tangible reality, she's heartbroken. That's different than depressed. And we go into that heartbreak. And I say, because this is what my clients have taught me, you start where people are. You don't tell them you should be somewhere else. That's the biggest mistake in couples counseling, in teaching people anything. You start where people are. There's a structure to emotions. And if we understand it, we can tune in. What you do when you're heartbroken is you touch the pain, you make it more specific, which makes it more manageable, and you weep. So this lady who says to me, I don't feel, I've come to you because I'm numb. My life is meaningless. I'm empty. I'm numb. And she said, I don't do feelings. Well, this lady, session 6, I teach therapists right now with this. She sits and she weeps. Now, she can't tolerate it for long because it's still new for her, but she sits and she weeps, and I say, yes, that's worth weeping for, isn't it? All those longings and feeling so invisible and unseen, that's worth weeping for. And she weeps. And right here, right now, I'm telling her something powerful. I'm telling her, I see you and you make sense. You exist and you have a right to these feelings. There's nothing strange about them. As I do that, she starts to grow. And all our work is based on John Bowlby's attachment science. He died in 1990 before his science could be applied to adults. He mostly talked about mothers and children.
Yeah, that's a big section of, I think, what we'll talk about in regards to your new workbook, the Hold Me Tight workbook. But just before we move to there, I think labels are very useful. But I do think people can hear these labels and believe it's the same as learning you're diabetic. And they can forget that these labels were just recently created. These labels of borderline personality disorder, all these things are brand new. And somehow they're given the weight and the importance of your pancreas not making insulin and the permanence.
You're right. And that's a real problem. They're descriptive labels that overlap and that are put together by a committee. They're a generalization, and they can help you sometimes. But for example, when I teach, I tell my therapists and my counselors, have you ever seen a client who's really depressed who isn't also anxious? Basically, they have an emotional problem and they're either down and numb and hiding out and shut down, or they're agitated, and actually down and numb feels better than agitated most of the time. They swing. What they don't have is any emotional balance. The point is, we focus on the process and how people put their experience together and put their view of self together. And the labels can be useful, but they can also get in the way. And they're very stigmatizing. Like the newest one, prolonged grief. I don't know if you've heard of that.
No.
Mm-mm.
Everyone's talking about prolonged grief. The implication is you're supposed to get over the loss of a spouse in a year, don't you know?
That's the time
That
frame.
seems
That seems a
normal.
little quick.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, but it's very silly. And people don't fit into those nice little boxes.
To be empathetic, and I myself have a label that I've ascribed to, which I'm an addict, right? I'm an alcoholic. And to me, that is a condition like diabetes. I don't actually believe I'll ever not be an addict. So, I have my own relationship with it. But I do see the initial appeal of the label. I've experienced it with loved ones who enter therapy, which is, you are this. Okay, so you are this immediately makes me feel, ooh, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not alone. There's others, right? Number two is, there's an explanation. I have this thing. I'm not uniquely broken. And perhaps even some of this isn't my fault.
That's a very functional use of the label. From my point of view, if it helps you feel not alone, that's fantastic, because from our point of view, most of problems in distressed relationships and in people's hearts, in all kinds of mental health and emotional problems, is isolation. People feel cut off from themselves, but they feel cut off from other people. Belonging and becoming are two sides of the same coin. So we focus a lot on alone because we're not wired for alone.
Okay, great. So I'm going to hit you with something I've been ruminating on a lot lately. And then as I pick up your book, I realize, you have the exact same concern, but it's through a different lens. So, Dr. Sue, my pitch to you is through the anthropological lens. This is what worries me. 100,000 years ago, you needed minimally 50 to 100 people that you were dependent on, interrelated with, to survive. You couldn't live on planet Earth 100,000 years ago if you were not entwined and dependent on 50 to 100 other people. And then over the course of our inventions of agriculture and civilization, that got whittled down to 2 people could do it. For several hundred years, 2 people could survive on their own. But they still were interdependent on one another. That became the model, right? Husband and wife. We no longer needed a clan to feed ourselves, house ourselves, clothe ourselves. We could survive by only being dependent on one other human being, which is already radically different from how we were designed. And I think currently, and this is an evolution you've watched in your lifetime, and I too have seen, we live in an era where you actually could be by yourself. An individual can survive and meet all their needs without ever being dependent or interwoven with another human being. As we watch this trajectory, we see the rates of being single in Manhattan. There's great data on Manhattan, like marriage rates in 1950 versus now. How many people live by themselves now in Manhattan versus 1950? It's staggering. Such a small percentage of people even join that union now. Part of it's wonderful. Women don't have to marry men to survive. That's fantastic. I have daughters. I love that. But the overarching concern I have is we're this highly social mammal that has figured out how to live individually.
Yes, I'm totally with you. For me, it's the crux of so much. We can now survive alone. However, the issue is, and I think you're putting your finger on it, we're able, and in lots of ways, our society has said, oh, well, that's great. That means you're independent. That means you're free. The tricky part is, on an emotional level, that has some real limits, because whether you can survive on your own physically, emotionally, all the evidence is you need to be emotionally connected with at least one or two human beings who will come when you call. And that is not the same as social intimacy. There's some lovely research on grief that talks about how widows can have a community of other widows, and that helps. It helps a lot. Of course it does.
Yeah.
It helps if they have a supportive environment. We do better in villages and communities, right? But there is another level of emotional isolation that is just devastating for people. And what Bowlby's research basically said, which came out of pure observation, pure science, he observed mothers and infants, hundreds of them, and videotaped them and watched them. And that's how I found out how to work with couples. I didn't know how to do it. It wasn't in the books. I taped couples and I watched. And what he basically said is, for human beings to thrive, to really grow, to grow into what they can be, to deal especially with their vulnerability, they need at least one or two close people that they can call on. And we're very inventive as human beings. As adults, we don't need that like a baby does. If I'm very distressed about something, I don't need my husband right beside me like a baby does. I have my husband in my mind. And what blows my mind, because science is one thing and clinical practice is another thing, that I also have my father in my head, who is my main attachment figure. And you talked at the beginning of this chat about key moments in your life. One of the key moments in my life a few years ago was I was awarded the Order of Canada. I wept for 3 weeks.
That's so sweet.
But what was fascinating, I stood up to get the order. I was completely
out of body.
You were disassociating.
Yeah, I was out of body. And my wonderful husband was there and my family were there. But as I walked up, I heard my father's voice very clearly. And my father said what he always said to me. He used to call me Squiggleplip. Who knows why? I don't know. And he said, well done, Squiggleplip. So we carry these images of hopefully secure attachment around with us. We use them to deal with our vulnerability, our emotions. When we're celebrating, we use them to say, look at me and you saw me and I'm blessed. And if we're distressed, we say, where are you? Come to me. And couples don't know how to listen to the emotional music. So sometimes when they're getting into fights, what they're really doing, and I think I learned this in the pub, is trying to call to each other and say, where are you? Where are you? But it all gets garbled. It doesn't sound like, where are you? It sounds like, why aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why don't you ever tell me? Well, then the other guy feels attacked and he doesn't hear, where are you? I'm scared.
No, they hear a character assessment.
That's right. He hears, you've blown it, buddy.
Yeah, you failed at this.
You're bad.
That's right. And women are especially vulnerable, it seems to me, to being abandoned and feeling they don't matter and they're not seen and they're alone. And men are especially vulnerable because of the way we condition them to some message that they failed their partner, they're not who they should be. And everyone, they come feeling vulnerable and then they spark each other into more vulnerability and they get stuck. And that's what happens. And if you know that, you can see a really distressed couple and say, this is the dance you're caught in. It's so human. we all get caught here sometimes. The dance is the problem. Not that you don't love each other, not that love is mysteriously impossible. It is not. We've cracked the code of love. Bowlby did it, for God's sake. We just keep ignoring him. And here's the dance you're caught in. And people go, oh, I was on the exercise bike this morning. I was listening to this 70s thing. Steely Dan.
Love Steely Dan, favorite band.
Steely Dan has a song called Go Back, Jack.
Do it again.
Wheel going round. Well, that's what we get caught in relationships. And my family, I have a weird family because of all the work we've done. So I have these wonderful fights with my son, who's very opinionated about everything. I'm not, of course. I'm just, totally open. And we have these wonderful fights. And it's not always me that does it. I can remember one enormous fight in the middle of Starbucks. If you're quite a well-known therapist, don't fight with your son. It's just stupid. Okay. But anyway, after we'd had this fight, we sat down and bless his heart, he was about 17. He said to me, hey, Mum, that didn't go too well, did it? We got stuck. I felt pushed. And you felt you weren't listened to and you didn't matter. So we got stuck, didn't we? I said, yes.
But I'll tell you that. You don't tell me that.
Yeah. Yes, I could have said that. But instead, I think it's profound what I said, because this is what couples do in these bonding conversations that makes our research so fascinating and creates these bonds. I took a risk and went into my vulnerability and said, well, Tim, I started in the wrong place. I started telling you that you'd failed grade 12, and I started it in a lecturing way, when what I should have said was, I'm getting really scared.
Yeah.
Because I'm your mom and I know something's really off with you and I don't know what it is and I can't help and I'm getting really scared. So then he looks at me and says, oh, well, that's different from, I don't think you're working hard. And then he says, you're right, I'm lost and I've blown it and I don't know what to do. And then by the time we walked home 5 blocks to the house that I had in Ottawa, we've created a plan, a problem-solving plan. When people start to feel connected and safe with each other, they can get balance, and then they can cooperate, and they can solve problems like mad. They can come up with all kinds of solutions.
I mean, we know physiologically, once you are in that area of your brain, we could watch you and your son at Starbucks if you were an fMRI monitoring devices, and we would know that the area of your brain you're in isn't the make a plan area. It's not the frontal lobe.
That's right.
No one can think their way out of that. Once you're there, you're there.
That's right. And I've never got over the thrill of watching a couple move from just being stuck in a fight and framing each other as the enemy, and they're both alone, and they're triggering each other. Then they can start to see the dance, they get their balance, and they start to be able to tune into what they're longing for and what they need. I've never got over the thrill of people being able to recognize that they're in their amygdala, they're just caught, and to be able to say to each other something like, we're stuck, aren't we? We're stuck. Rather than you're, or I'm not doing this, or, they say, oh, we're doing that thing again. It's doing us. Oh, okay. Then we can step back. But the real thing that happens, which is why we get such amazing results in the field and why our results last over 3 years of follow-up, which is amazing too. I wrote Hold Me Tight, and we started groups for Hold Me Tight groups all over the world and made an online program, is to tell people about this. The real thing happens when they can not only do that, but they can change the level of emotional music, and they can actually touch and name their needs and their vulnerabilities and their fears, and they can reach for each other and comfort each other. Then you get this amazing Hold Me Tight conversation. And we've done a brain scan study with my wonderful colleague in the University of Virginia, where we found that very distressed, very insecure couples, they weren't just distressed, they didn't trust each other, they didn't confide. And what we found was that after they had these bonding conversations, that when the woman was put in an MRI and she was told she was going to be shocked on her ankles.
This is Jim Cohen.
Yes. And it's impossible to read, by the way. I phoned up and said, I can't understand one word of this study. He said, no, neither can I, but it's published now. So it was a brilliant study. I was so proud of it. And these women's brains, in the beginning, before the bonding conversations, if they were alone, if a stranger held their hand, or if their partner held their hand, when they got the trigger that they might be shocked, their brain lit up into alarm and they said the shock really hurt. After the bonding conversations, when they were alone or when the stranger held their hand, same thing happened. But after the bonding conversations, when their partner held their hand and they got the threat, their brain looks completely calm.
It doesn't get hijacked by the amygdala at that point.
I said, it's not red, it's blue. What does that mean? And he said, this is a neuroscientist talking to me. He said, it means they're not dead, Sue. I said, oh, all right, jolly good. But if you ask them if the shock hurts, if it happens, they say it was uncomfortable. We're not just social, we're bonding animals. This is our brain saying, if I have this ultimate resource of somebody here who sees me, cares about me, and will be there for me, I'm grounded, I am safe. And that changes the triggers that are coming towards you.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert, if you dare.
Doctor, can I add?
Dax, do call me Sue.
Can
He
I call you
likes
Sue?
calling you
Okay.
doctor.
I don't know. I never know with these doctors what
Oh,
I'm supposed to
no, don't call me doctor.
He wants you
Okay.
to call him doctor. He'd
yeah,
prefer
I've
that.
not earned that, but please do. I was just writing about this the other day. We understand broadly that we need water, food, shelter. We know that. These are our needs. What people don't realize is that the need above that is being social, because being social is what gives you the other three. You actually can't, in order, prioritize the first three over the socialness, because the socialness is what gets you those three. So if you're excluded from your tribe 100,000 years ago, you're fucking dead. There's no water, there's no food, there's no shelter. So the strength of it is so underassessed by people.
I agree with you. And in our world, which is all about getting goodies and more sensations and everything's commercialized, that has just got completely lost.
Yeah, because then you just get all the food, water, shelter in whatever form you want without any...
And the excitement, and everyone talks about freedom. What's that amazing song by the Eagles? Desperado. I've been on my bike. You can just tell I came from my bicycle. But amazing song. And it says, freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. Nothing ain't worth nothing, but it's free. So that's a huge generalization. We all need autonomy. The point is, the best autonomy, the autonomy that's real, is that the more connected you are, the more securely connected you are to another human being, the more you can explore, the more confident you are, the more grounded you are, the more you can go out into the world and be really free.
Yeah, actually be who you are through the safe foundation of this connection.
That's absolutely right. And my most fun thing about working with couples, first of all, I was blown away by our research results, and I got all high, and that high lasted for about 15 years. And then I got into watching how when people had these bonding conversations, it wasn't just that their relationship completely shifted. They grew each other. They grew each other. You could almost see the guy who suddenly realized, oh, she needs me. I'm not the big disappointment. I'm so important to her.
Yeah, as flawed as I am, she actually wants this.
That's right. She wants me. And you can see him get bigger. And suddenly he goes for the job interview and he gets the job instead of blowing it. You can see couples grow each other. And that's what people do in good relationships. This is the greatest resource of human beings, is to be able to turn to each other. This is why we survived. Yes, we needed a village. This is a funny image, but if you were out hunting a mammoth and, we're three together hunting a mammoth, we don't just need a village. You need to be able to look at my face and read the cues on my face that I'm going to go in now and run towards the mammoth. Yeah. And I need to know that when you see me do that, you're going to respond. You're not going to run the other way.
Yeah, you're coming around the back of that mammoth and giving the death blow so I don't get trampled.
We need to count on each other in that very intimate kind of way.
Yeah.
Also, when you're talking about these bonding conversations and you said we're stuck, The word we is so powerful.
Yes.
It's extremely powerful because it immediately puts you on the same team, regardless of the fight or whatever you're saying. We had somebody in who was talking about reading people, mind reading, kind of.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Kind of. And he was talking about nonverbal cues. And he also said he can learn so much about people in the way they talk. If they say I, me versus we, us.
Yeah, he was saying it's kind of how to know if this thing you're pursuing is going anywhere. If your date says we parked over there or I, like even those little
and I think about it all the time, even in this show, when it's a we versus I statement. It's like isolation or togetherness immediately.
I agree with you. I mean, we can look at this on lots of different levels. We can look at it as in interpersonal relationships. We can look at it in groups. We can look at it as a society. It's kind of like in capitalism, you're an I. I'm going to sell you this and I'm going to try and appeal to everything about you that you find attractive. And I'm going to sell you that. So you're an I. But in fact, that's not the way we're wired. And that's not what we need to survive. We have to be a we. And who said this? Not me, somebody profound. It might have been Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddhist monk. Basically, we have to recognize our need for connection, and we have to come together into a we, or we as a race, as a species, are not going to survive because the problems that are coming into our world are not solvable by any I, no matter how brilliant. We have to come together to work on creating something called civilization that is real civilization that nurtures people. We have to come together to take care of the planet. We have to come together to not blow ourselves up. We're so powerful now, and I don't think we can handle our power, really.
We're lazy. We're all lazy. And without a common threats bond us. So the common thread of thirst, the common thread of hunger, the common thread of the environment, the common thread of another government. These things are so bonding because we recognize in those moments, oh shit, we need each other. COVID, you're like, oh fuck. It's not like only one country can decide to do it correctly. It's like everyone's got to get on board. The great gift of safety all of our inventions have given us have actually also taken away that common enemy that we kind of need story-wise to bond with each other. It's like we're the beneficiaries and the victims of our success in that way.
And so much of our world takes us away from that. I mean, when I'm talking about sharing vulnerability and honoring, strength is, from my point of view, knowing your vulnerability, accepting it, and knowing how to handle it and walk through it, right? And continually grow. That's strength. But really, if you look at a lot of, especially what kids watch, they watch superhero movies, they watch games. And what is the message there? It's all about invulnerability. It's all about, the fantasy of immortality, invulnerability. Aloneness doesn't come into it because you're so powerful, you can do anything.
We have the adoration of the world, which will fill you.
Yes, I remember having fights with my kids about social media, and my daughter would say, I have 300 friends. And I would say, no, you don't. You have 2 friends, and I know their names.
Hit them up when next time you have a flat tire on the side of the road so you have any arrive. Okay, I want to praise the workbook because, look, if you're in a relationship, you have problems. That's the given. If you're in a relationship, it's going to require compromise. It's going to require communication. It's going to be challenging. And I think the way out often feels either overwhelming or too abstract, not step-based, not actionable things. It's so abstract. It's so out of your hands. You can't get it under control. You feel like you've tried everything. You're hopeless. And so what I like about the workbook, right out of the gates, the first thing I look at in the workbook is demand and withdraw, identifying your primal panic. And so within the demand category and the withdrawal, there's some statements. And by God, if I don't start identifying immediately with everything in the withdraw category, and I go, oh, okay, not only is that me, there must be a lot of me if this fucking category is hitting home so much.
There's a lot of you. And what we have done, which is a huge disservice, is I think systematically teach men in particular. What you are expected to do is shut down and shut people out. And if you are feeling vulnerable or uncertain, you are expected to just get past that. There's a tape that I use, that I teach from sometimes, where the man is very shut down and the woman's getting angrier and angrier and more depressed. And he just doesn't understand. He loves her to death. You can see it, but he just doesn't understand. So he says, well, I don't know how to make it better. I'm supposed to know how to make it better. I feel like everything I say is going to make it worse. I'm messing up. So I just stop. Think of how small this is, really, and how simple. I say, could you tell her right now? And I get specific and concrete. When I see that look on your face, when you're getting angry or real sad, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. And I should know what to say. And he says, yes, I should know what to say, but I don't know what to say. I say, good. Can you tell her that? And he turns to her and he says, and he adds to it. People always add because they're in the emotional groove then. I just open the door to the emotion. He adds to it and he says, when you look sad, I get scared and I don't know how to fix it. I can't fix it. I don't know what to say. And she weeps. And he looks at me.
What do I do now?
Yeah, why am I seeing this kind side of her?
She weeps and she says, what you just did was perfect. I don't need you to fix it. I need you to just be there with me.
Sue, I'm going to pat ourselves on the back, and I want you to incorporate this in your next book. So Monica, last week, Monica started getting suspicious that she had left a tampon in herself. Okay? She didn't have a ton of concrete proof. It's just all of a sudden she came into work. She goes, oh, my God, I'm getting nervous. I have a tampon stuck in me, and I may have had it stuck in me at this point for 6 days. Now, I'm a man. Right?
Oh, no.
Hold on.
I know,
So,
it's scary.
No, listen. So I say, well, what proof do you have? You're noticing any discomfort? You know, is there any early symptoms of TSS? Right. I'm a man. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to solve this problem. It's escalating and escalating. And I finally said to her, because I kind of went quiet for a while. And she looked at me like, what, you're just done with this conversation? And I said, Monica, I don't know what to do. Part of me thinks I should talk you out of this fear, that's my job as your friend, is to comfort you and convince you that this is not happening. Or do I stop this recording and we go to the emergency room? Like, I don't know what my role is here. I don't know how to be your friend right now. Is it rush you to the emergency room or try to assuage your fears that this is happening? I don't know.
But you see, if I was sitting in front of you, I would say to you, that's brilliant.
Well, that's why I said I'm bragging. I know I was bragging.
Because
about
you
this.
show up emotionally, and that's really what Monica needs. I'm presuming, Monica. But I must say, I'm caught.
You're in my shoes now.
No, she's like, did you go to the hospital?
Did that help?
It helped in that I felt like he wasn't being adversarial. Like, because at first, a part you skipped
Okay.
is you were really trying to convince me that there's no way
You would have not
I could have
noticed this.
possibly had a tampon in for 6 days because
Yeah.
you're in a rational mindset. So you were trying very hard to convince me, and obviously that's not going to work. You don't know, and I could die tonight, and you obviously don't care enough.
Right.
And then when you said I don't know how to handle it, then yeah, it's like, it's fine. You can just listen.
And that's so significant because you didn't need him to fix it. What you needed was for him to be with you and listen. And the issue is that when he's with you and listens, it's like the problem shrinks because your amygdala stops firing. The problem shrinks and you don't feel alone. You can talk about it and you can say, oh, and in a good relationship, this is what happens. The couple come together. I'm just thinking about my husband. I mean, it happens all the time because I've got more of an imagination than he has. He's more solid. I catastrophize. I say, oh, we're out in this new boat that I absolutely hated, but I couldn't figure out why he bought. And suddenly we're caught in this current. And I'm into like, we're going to drown. And he's into, Sue, you're scared because you're scared of the water. I said, yes, stupid.
Because I'm not an aquatic animal. Yes, dingus.
And then he says, and see, listen to the emotional message here. It doesn't make any sense intellectually. Perhaps he says, it's okay, sweetie, I've got you.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately I go, oh, Okay, we're out of the current now. That was dumb. But it's about going to the right level. We teach people communication skills.
For the listener, you are doing air quotes.
When I'm really vulnerable, they go out the window because I'm a human being.
Right. And the amygdala is not great at storing your communication skills.
That's right. They're irrelevant, actually. When my feet are over a cliff, guess what? Your skills go out the window. Okay. So going to the emotional level and being able to just say, I'm with you, that's what we call biologically prepared learning. Your nervous system hears that and goes, oh, okay. And that changes everything. Just like those women lying in the MRI machine, it changes the nature of threat. We are more vulnerable for longer than almost any other species. And we know when our brain starts to develop, if we really are alone and no one comes, we die.
That's what's triggered. People don't give it the credit it deserves. It's an existential crisis. These stupid things are actually existential. Back to, without it, you starve, dehydrate, and don't have shelter.
And the other one that hits me a lot, maybe it's just the clients I'm seeing right now, is, you can listen to the philosophers talk about meaning, and man is a meaning-making animal. You need to have your life meaning. But when you really come down to it in concrete terms, everyday life, what does that mean? It means that you have to feel that you matter to someone else and that you exist in someone else's mind. So when my client says to me, I've always been empty and numb, and then I start to talk to her about how she can close her eyes and imagine saying to her husband some of these things that she's telling me about. And suddenly she's not empty or numb. She's scared, but she's not empty and numb. Meaning is all tied up with our relationships. We want to matter to other people. We want to make a difference.
These types, demand type or withdraw type, instinctually, it seems like it would line up pretty nicely along gender lines, or no? Is that not the case?
Not always. Every place we get stuck started as a response that saved our life somewhere, right? Started as a functional response and then it got stuck and generalized, okay? So some women, if they've been traumatized, when you listen to their stories, they have no reason on earth to ever trust another human being and let another human get close and get hurt again. And it blows my mind that they do. They still long for a connection somewhere, and they still will risk if you help them move slowly towards their partner. But, some women shut down, but it's not really types. It's an emotional pattern and a dance with other people that is familiar to you. So when the chips are down, you naturally go there. And it can either be real rigid or not so rigid. And it can be influenced by culture too. I worked with an Inuit couple on Zoom. When this Inuit gentleman withdrew, it wasn't like my husband might withdraw. Withdrawal for him was he'd go out on the ice and fish all by himself for 6 days.
Sounds heavenly at times, yeah.
This is kind of different withdrawal, right? Because this is his culture.
Yeah.
I'm a pursuer. I like connection. I move towards. But in certain situations, if I'm really overwhelmed or I'm somehow going to some really dark space, I also shut down and withdraw. And what's fascinating after 35 years is that as your relationship grows and you feel safer, those familiar dances become more flexible and more open and more shared and not as stuck.
Well, more visible, right? The more you identify them, the quicker you spot them.
Yeah. And so now my sweet husband comes to me and says, what's happening, Sue? And I say, nothing.
Yeah, of course.
Nothing. I'm fine.
Yeah, none of his business.
Yeah. If he knocks on the door twice, it's like, all right, okay. Yeah, what am I doing?
By the way, there's a hack in there. What's happening beats my approach quite often. Are you upset about something? That'll be my question. Are you sad about something? That's easy to get defensive about. Like, well, you don't know how I
'Cause
feel.
you're
I'm not
labeling an
upset. I'm
emotion,
not
yeah.
this. But what's happening is really innocuous. That's a really kind of safe starting point.
Yes. When I teach therapists and counselors, what I say to them is, yes, learn all kinds of theories and ideas and everything. But the bottom line is you are an emotional human being sitting with another emotional human being. Tune into their face, listen to them, be curious. You ask them, could you take me into your world? What's happening for you right now? I have a huge guess as to what's happening for you most of the time, especially if I'm working with couples. but it's a guess. I need you to tell me. And you have your own version, right? And then I listen, and then together we piece it together and make sense of your experience. And I also make sense of it from all the attachment science that says we need other people to be accessible and responsive to us. And if we don't have that, that is alarming for our mammalian brain. And that's the way it is.
Yeah. So for me, I immediately am like, oh God, okay, so this book pertains to me because I see myself, these thoughts I just read, I have these thoughts. You have these demon dialogues, these examples of different dialogue dances people get caught in. In all of them, I've experienced all of them, but the protest polka.
Ooh.
That's the most common.
Okay, so this is ambiguous messages such as, well, maybe I don't want to be here, so, or perhaps I'm just not enough for you, so I should just give up. A friend and I were talking about the shittiest things we've kind of said in fights with our wives. And I, at one point, said, this guy, whoever this guy is who does all the shit I do and then also does the list you leave on the counter, I can't wait to meet him. Like, I literally want to shake his hand. When you find him, please introduce him to me because I'm going to be blown away with this guy. Basically, good luck going to get him. It's backhanded. There's a big threat in there. I'm posing it as you're going to leave me for this person, this theoretical person. But really, I'm saying what you want can't
Doesn't
be gotten.
exist.
And so I'm fucking done trying to be this mythical guy. You go get him,
And it's saying I'm the best you can get.
which is true.
Like, there we go.
And I'm doing plenty.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot in that statement.
Well, that's kind of a funny one, though, because I don't think we want to feel like we're the best that we could possibly be for our partners and with our partners, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What I've learned from all those couples and all those studies is what is possible. I mean, I've seen so many couples come together and create this bond that some of them had never even seen this bond. They didn't even know it was possible. And they come together and they grow each other. And it's like, we didn't know that you could do this. And somehow it still drives me crazy that in this modern world, from my point of view, we've cracked the code of romantic love. This is attachment science. We know what happens. We know how people get stuck. We know what creates relationships. And it still drives me crazy somehow that this isn't on the front of the New York Times. I remember talking to some New York journalist and they wanted me to do some funny article on some crazy topic. And I lost my cool and said, I want to know why you don't have all over your damn newspaper, hey, love isn't a mystery. Hey, we can do it. We know how to do it.
Can I guess why you were angry and you cracked?
Sure.
Some skeptical side of you knew that a solution would end their job. The perpetuation of this mystery is what sells everything. It's a trip to Kay's jeweler. That'll fix it. It's this restaurant. It's this holiday. You have to have some skepticism that by actually acknowledging what the path is, it dismantles about 80 fucking industries and probably 30% of what's in the paper.
Hey, Dax, you're more cynical than me. I didn't go there.
But maybe intuitively your frustration was, you guys, you're going to come at this from 80 different angles. There's going to be an article every week about getting flowers, doing this, when you could just print this and you're not doing it.
You know, it's quite interesting because the way Hold Me Tight came into being was that before COVID, I used to dance Argentine tango. Argentine tango is all about tuning into another human being and reading their cues and then listening to the emotional music together and allowing the process to take you somewhere. Okay, so it's quite a trip. So I used to go to my tango lessons. I used to walk through the big bookstore in Ottawa, and I used to walk past the relationship section. And I used to walk past, I used to go, look at that. I've never seen such crap in all my, oh my God. Then one day I'm walking through and another part of me says, well, hey, Johnson, get over yourself. If you think all this stuff is nonsense, why don't you write up all this stuff you've been doing for the public? Well, I don't know how to do that because I write academic articles. And then my other brain said, well, tough. Then you don't walk through here and point at all those other ones. So it took me 4 years to figure out how to write Hold Me Tight. It's blown my mind what's happened to that book. And there's all kinds of programs that come out of it. One of the ones I'm proudest of is that at the huge hospital in Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada, the huge heart hospital, some of the cardiologists came and said, what we notice is that the patients who say they're not close to their wives and they're distressed, they're much more likely to have another heart attack because they don't take their meds, they don't go to the gym, they don't take care of themselves, they don't share. And what we notice is that the couples are distressed, so they get more distressed after heart attack. If they can't connect around the vulnerability, it drives them apart, right?
Yeah.
And then you're alone, and then you're more vulnerable. And they said, will you do this program? Well, half of the cardiologists were mad. They said, this is ridiculous. I don't care about my patients' relationships. I want them to go to the gym. I said, well, we could come in and take this book and turn it into a program for you guys. The guys who didn't want us there said, nobody wants to do that. Well, we put it up in the hospital and it was full by the evening it was up.
Wow.
And we started doing them. And now we have a huge, for Canada, research grant to look at the results because even the cardiologist started to say, my patient's going to the gym and his blood pressure is down and his cholesterol's lower because he's eating. Oh, he's off his antidepressants. So I'm so proud of Healing Hearts Together, which came from Hold Me Tight. And I'm so proud because my whole hometown when I was a child was a naval town. The US military and the Canadian military use our program, our Hold Me Tight online program and our book, and hopefully this workbook for their soldiers and their partners. That makes me feel really, really proud.
Yeah, as it should.
Awesome.
By the way, it's so obvious how that heart thing would fall immediately into this demand withdrawal paradigm, which is instead of seeing someone's efforts as help, it would be seen as reminding you of your failures.
That's perfect. I worked with a couple where she had said to him, you've got too much wine in your glass.
Yeah.
And he blew up
Yeah.
and said, are you going to remind me every minute of the fact that I had a heart attack at 60 and men aren't supposed to have heart attacks at 60 and I'm not the man I was? Is that what you're going to do? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But this matters because he's got a new heart in his chest.
Yeah.
He storms out of the house in the middle of night without his cell phone by himself. He hasn't taken his meds. He drives around all night in a rural area without his nitroglycerin. And he's gone all night. And then he comes back and he misses all his appointments the next day. That was classic, right?
Yeah.
And when they started to deal with his heart problem together, that all changed. And when you show people the possibility, real connection with another human being is more magical, more essential, more incredible than anything that Disney ever came up with. And it always will be. And this is how you do it. And like, duh, come on, people. We should teach people this, shouldn't we?
Yes. That's a great summation. I really, truly encourage people to get the Hold Me Tight workbook, A Couple's Guide for a Lifetime of Love, because like I said, it's such a little ask. I guarantee if you sit down and you start reading through these questions, you're going to start identifying immediately with these patterns. You're doing it together. It's we're going to learn about this. Whatever member of this duo suggests this book, I would lead with, I'm curious for me and for us, not you need to learn this.
Yeah. Shall we?
Yeah.
Shall we check this out? Again, there's also a magic in it that exists in AA, I'll just say, which is it's depersonalized because it's on this piece of paper and these statements exist from someone else. And you're free to just identify, not to even generate them, just to identify. And that's so powerful.
And it's about us all. Yes, we're different, but we're not. We all have the same longings. We all have the same fears. We all get stuck. We all mess up because we're scared. And so we either numb out or we get angry. This is about us all. It's not about somebody's admitting that there's something wrong with them. It's not about learning cognitive skills. It's about connecting with your humanity. It's about connecting with what's common to all of us. And that's what I learned in the pub. I learned it on some very basic level. We're all the same. We need to hold each other.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Dr. Sue, I really enjoyed this tremendously.
You guys are fun.
Oh,
You're fun.
Thank you.
This is great.
Do you ever get told you've got a Meryl Streep vibe?
Oh.
do, and I don't
Yeah.
understand what you're
Yes.
talking about. I feel very flattered.
Well, you don't need to understand. Just the viewer needs to understand.
I might prefer somebody amazingly sexy and lithe and all the things I'm not.
Funny enough, the other vibes I was getting was Scarlett Johansson. So it's
Oh,
like kind of
wow.
you're a mashup between Scarlett Johansson and Meryl Streep.
Oh, okay.
See, you wanted it, but now you're too flustered when you got it.
I know. No, I can't. Yeah, all right. Jolly good. Lovely to talk to you guys. Thank you so much for inviting me. I appreciate you.
Oh,
Thank
us too.
you.
It's been a real pleasure. Good luck with everything.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert, if you dare.
And now my favorite part of the show, the fact check with my soulmate, Monica Padman.
Okie doke.
Do they sleep in the same bed when they're at your house?
No, I think someone's staying on the couch.
Okay. Probably Neil.
I hope.
I would hope.
I
would
hope it's
that your
Neil.
dad's in the bed.
Me too. And I also put out an air mattress in case that was more appealing than the couch.
Than the couch.
Yeah.
What would you pick? Couch?
I said air mattress, but I think couch was going to be what
The preferred
happened.
method.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll tell you, Aaron and I fucking loved living there.
It's a good apartment.
It's one of my favorite memories of Aaron and I living there for a week. Oh,
Yeah.
God, was
And
it fun.
Was he on the couch?
He must have been. I can't even
Or the
remember.
air
I'll
mattress.
no, I think he was in the couch. But Aaron's also a lifelong couch sleeper.
Right.
I don't do well on a couch. My back
Yeah.
is destroyed if I sleep on a couch. And they're rarely long enough for me, too.
Yeah, I could see that being a big problem.
Like even the one you sit atop right now, I'll occasionally when I'm in here writing, I'll go, take a little 20-minute nap on there. And the crown of my head is pushed into the armrest and my heels are pushed into the other armrest.
Wow.
It's not comfy. Yeah. I'm just about an inch longer than that couch.
I can really lay down on this couch.
You could writhe around
Let
like
me
you were in
show
your
you.
Brook linens. Yeah, let's do a little demonstration.
Isn't there a bed in there too?
There is. It seems crazy to pull the bed out for a nap, though. Oh, my
it's so
God.
much space.
Too much space.
Oh
Wow,
my
you look
God.
so comfortable.
I'm really comfy.
Night, night, money.
And it's time for bed.
Bedtime for baby.
Ooh.
Poops.
Yeah. So my dad and my brother are at my apartment. Well, right now they're at a tailgate.
The tailgate's already begun, do you think?
It started at 12:30.
Oh, my God, they're hammered.
Probably.
Oh, great. I'm so jealous. Are they in rain gear?
They brought umbrellas, but I'm not.
It's hard to party with an umbrella,
I
isn't it?
know. I hope that the tailgate probably has some tents, would be my guess.
Yeah, you got to assume.
And then thank God the stadium is covered.
Huh.
But I have a good karma story.
Oh, wonderful.
So they got in yesterday, and my brother was like, this girl next to me had a voucher or something, had like free drinks for the whole flight.
Oh, unlimited drink?
Yeah, I don't know how she got that, but so she was getting my brother drinks.
Oh, wonderful. Wonder
Yeah.
what kind he was having.
Jack and Cokes.
That's what he drinks?
I guess.
Oh,
He said
he and I could have partied.
you could have. Yeah, he said he had like 4 Jack and Cokes.
Good.
I know.
4.
He didn't seem drunk even, so I was happy.
He can hold his liquor.
Yes.
He's a padman.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Was your dad slamming too? Were they seated together?
Okay, so this is part of it.
Oh.
So their seats were booked an aisle and another aisle, but next to each other, right?
Right.
Because no one wants a middle seat, right?
Mhm. Oh, that's smart. I would have thought like, oh, maybe I'll put one in the window, one in the aisle, hope no one's in the middle, but that's too risky.
Too risky.
You go aisle, you're certain they'll be next to each other.
Exactly.
Clever.
And it was a really booked up flight, so there weren't that many options. So the guy sitting next to my dad asked Neil if he could switch because his wife was sitting.
Oh my God, middle seat for an aisle?
So at first he said, hey, do you think I could sit there? We could switch. That's my wife.
Mhm.
And then Neil said, where's your seat?
Yeah.
And then he pointed to the aisle.
Oh.
So then my brother was like, okay. I mean, that's like separating my dad and him, but he was
Yeah.
like, that's fine, whatever. So he sits in that seat And
That
then
was the middle.
this girl came up and was like, "Oh, that's my seat." And then the guy was like, "Oh, I guess that was my seat, the
What a
middle."
dick.
I know. I was like, "That's really fucked up. That's
yeah.
unethical."
Totally.
And you can't ask if you're a middle seat. You're
You ain't
stuck.
trading, unless it's with
Yeah.
another middle seat.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So my brother was kind of like, "Ugh," but he, he did it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got
was
good.
rewarded.
Yes. Then the girl and him talked the whole flight and was
Oh my God, are they
serving him
dating?
drinks. I hope my dad was like, "Yeah, she was a nice girl," like as if like
Oh,
he
you
was like,
approved.
"Yeah,
Do you think she's gonna come to Christmas?
maybe."
Oh.
I don't know. Well, he said she was 30, and then I said, "Well, that's great." And he was like, "Women don't like younger men," and I was like, "That's true."
But there's a lot of women married who we just interviewed. Someone who's married to someone like 12.
Gabrielle Union.
Yeah, an NBA player.
I guess
no
all
less.
he needs to do is become an
Be
NBA
a
player.
world class NBA player.
Become Dwayne Wade.
By the way, did you see the picture of him in his gold suit with no shirt on?
No.
It's worth me.
Ooh.
I'm gonna.
I can look it up.
Yeah, look it up. You're gonna have a raging boner. It's incredible.
He's so
He's so fine.
couple is the most beautiful couple I've ever seen.
I'm gonna look at it too, even though I've already seen it.
Oh, wow.
Can you even believe?
Yeah, he's so hot. Look at his nice feet.
Oh, I passed those. I went straight to his abs.
I
which-
like
it's
look-
hard to have abs like that when you're sitting down in a chair.
I like looking at zooming on all the parts.
Yeah, sure. You got to take it one piece at a time.
Yeah. Anywho,
That was a nice sidebar, right?
Yeah, it was. So that was good karma for him.
Yeah.
And she might come to Christmas.
Oh my God. They didn't exchange numbers or anything. did they?
Instagrams.
They did?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, is she single?
I don't know.
Oh my
I'm excited
God.
about
Me
it.
too. There's a love connection at 30,000 feet.
Meet cute. That's a meet
Big
cute.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, what if they would have joined the Mile High Club together?
That I don't want to hear. I don't need.
Okay.
I don't like that. I mean, I do in
For
theory,
him, yeah.
but I don't need details about that.
Also, Mile High Club on a daytime flight is very unlikely. There's going to be a lot of traffic. You do the Mile High Club on a Mile High Club on a red eye.
Oh.
And nobody in there. Everyone's asleep.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's just disgusting. It's to be missed.
I can't believe you're saying that.
I know that says everything. I'd
Yeah.
fucking an outhouse. Like it's
Yeah.
rough. Yeah.
Wow. So they're in the rain at a tailgate right now. The game is in 2.5 hours.
Whoa. Well, no, Monica, the game's
Oh,
over.
it already
You're a
happened and we're
champion.
already-
You're a world champion.
Oh, I don't know how to do this
I
'cause-
don't either. Roll Tide. No, is it? No, yeah, because that's what's been
How
working.
dare you? Don't you dare. Someone got on the speaker and said, "Go Dogs."
Do you remember that story? Wait, they did?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
A bunch of Georgians.
Yeah.
Do you remember when we interviewed T.I. and he had rescued a guy who jumped off like the 5th floor balcony of a hotel?
No. He was threatening to. He was threatening to, right?
The
I thought
guy
he-
from like Nickelback, right?
It was some band, one of Nickelback.
Did he
type
actually
band.
jump? I don't remember.
I think he jumped.
Really?
And I think
he walked by.
I think T.I. came to his rescue, or
Yeah.
he fell or jumped, and the guy was on the ground and he yelled, "Roll Tide." Don't you remember that part?
Wait. I don't.
Yes.
I do now.
Because T.I. was
vaguely-
wearing a
that-
Georgia hat. And so this dude all fucked up was like, "Roll Tide." I swear that's how
Maybe
the
he
story
was
went.
wearing like an Atlanta hat, probably. So it probably had an A.
Okay. Or he was just fucking with him because
Oh.
he's a Roll Tide guy. And in his
Nickelback.
delirium.
It was the singer from Creed, Scott Stapp.
There you go.
He helped police persuade a man not to jump off the roof.
Oh, you're right. Not to jump. No, that's a separate thing.
The separate.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
downtown Atlanta, he intervened with a guy that was going to commit suicide. That's one thing. Then another thing is he was somewhere and the guy fell out of the balcony, the Creed guy, or the whatever you just said.
Creed, yeah.
Creed.
Scott Stapp.
We need to go back and listen.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anywho, that's a bad time to be pulling out rival talk.
And also
Shit talk.
really funny. Like you're dying from falling off of a thing.
That's real loyalty to your team.
It really is. And a
Wow.
real good sense of humor. Because you see a guy from a rival team and you're embarrassed. You've just fallen out and or jumped out and you're on the ground and you go, roll tide.
Oh my god! I think he misunderstood the hat.
That's possible. That was like when DeCastro, who almost beat me at go-karts the other day,
Yeah.
he delivered a knockout joke
Oh,
in the worst possible scenario.
what happened?
Well, remember he was famously driven over by Tom Sizemore
Yes,
on a set.
yes.
Should have never happened. And drugged by a car. Earlier in the day, he was talking to the stunt coordinator, and they were debating, because DeCastro was a black belt in jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
and the stunt coordinator was a boxer, and he was razzing Steve that he could take him.
Oh.
And he said, well, all this jiu-jitsu is not going to matter when I knock you out. And DeCastro goes, yeah, I'm pretty hard to knock out. He said that earlier in the day. Now DeCastro's trapped under a car. I mean, he is as fucked up as you can get. His
Yeah.
arm's broken, his ribs are broken, his head's tore open. He's like, it is gnarly. The stunt coordinator runs, gets under the car to see if he's alive.
Yeah.
He's like, oh my God, Steve, are you okay? And Steve goes, told you I was hard to knock out.
Oh shit!
I mean, that's
hot.
talk about it is hot.
Yeah.
And talk about a commitment to lightening the mood. Like, you know how
Oh,
panicked everyone is.
man.
Yeah.
I like that.
You a little horny?
I don't want to talk about it.
Okay. So I'm thinking of Roll Tide as being a little bit in that vein.
I see.
Yeah.
I
Like
see.
maybe they had just lost. I don't know. Now I'm making up a lot
You
of
really
backstory.
are. Yeah.
Did you get to the bottom of it yet, Rob?
No, I gave up.
I give up. I threw in the towel.
Just decided not to participate.
Who's this about?
Sue Johnson.
Yes, she has beautiful messages.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really
definitely.
like that.
Harmony.
Harmony, yes.
Let's see. So
What'd you do this weekend?
not that much.
I just baked a stew. I quartered chicken. I fell off a roof.
No, but I.
Remember you hadn't done. Oh, by the update.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. You were about to
No,
mention
go
something.
ahead.
I love Wednesday.
It's the best.
I love it. And I'm obsessed now with that actor. And we need to
Jenna.
get her on.
Yeah.
Jenna
Ortega.
Wow.
She's
She's going to
really
be the biggest star in the world.
Well, she's really big.
She is already.
Yeah.
But I mean, she's going to be the lead of these great movies and
Yeah,
stuff. That's
yeah.
all on the horizon. It's very obvious.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
So fun to watch.
She's 20.
She is?
Yeah, she's so young.
Yeah. Sky is the limit. Whole life in front of her.
And she's a fashion icon.
Is she?
Yeah, like she's one to watch in fashion.
Okay, because my prediction was there's going to be a huge revival of goth. I made that prediction.
Oh.
Episode 2. I'm like, every young girl's going to start dressing like Wednesday. How could they not? It's going to be great.
It's not for me.
Wednesday looks so cool.
I know, but
The striped black and white shirt, I want it.
Okay, we'll get it.
Okay, we'll get it for you.
I've just
It's not
never
your-
liked goth. Like
I know,
it's
'cause you're a
it's-
good girl. You're a cheerleader.
No, that's not why. That's
Bright colors.
don't make me the enemy.
I'm not.
I'm just saying.
But goths and cheerleaders were on different sides of the aisle.
Well, because to me, goth was
Depression.
yeah, but
But there's going to be a version of goth now that's not linked to depression and Depeche Mode, the band. Okay. There's going to be like a new, fun, sexy goth thing that's not the trench coat mafia.
I don't like this idea that happiness is not cool.
But that's what I'm saying. It's going to be the style without the theme.
Don't you think that's like baked in? That's what it is.
No, it's adjacent to like 60s French mod. Or not French, English mod, which didn't have the gothic connotations.
Okay. I mean, if you're
There's a
talking
lot of
about
black and white and
Yeah.
boots and
okay, that's black and white is
as old as
so
time.
different. Yeah, that we can't. That's not goth at all.
Or whatever Wednesday's style is. You don't want to have
It's
to call
goth.
it is. Okay, good.
No,
Okay,
that's
good.
right. But
That's going to be huge.
but hers is not baked in happiness. That's her.
It's
whole
going to bust
character.
right out of that now. Mark my words.
Okay.
1 year from now, we're
And
going
you
to be
know
talking
so much more about fashion than I
Yes,
do. Yeah.
I always have and I always will.
Yeah. We all know this.
My box water. This right here. Look at it. It's already Wednesday.
Okay,
Look
listen,
at it. It's
stop.
simple. It's just black and white. It's gone.
I love black and white. That's kind of like New York style often. It's
Yeah.
very minimal black.
Black and white, goth.
But that's not it's not goth at
Although, well, New York City's always called Gotham in the comics. What are you going to do with that piece of information?
You're right.
Thank you.
You are right.
Batman defends Gotham.
He does.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's Chicago though.
Sometimes Gotham is Chicago?
Well, they shot a lot of like Batman in.
Well, that's
Okay, Rob.
Oh, God. Everyone's got their pet project. Yours is like hating Alabama. Yours is Chicago. Mine is goth, I guess.
I guess. I mean, I could also see you defending goths because you were punk.
They were adjacent to
Yes.
punk, but I wasn't into goth, like being melancholy.
Right.
My punk rock was like, most of them were straight edge. A lot of them were vegan before that was a thing.
Yeah.
They're politically active, visiting the murderer in Chicago. Ding, 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 Rob. Who was the clown?
Bozo?
Gacy.
Yeah, John Wayne Gacy. That was like a thing. A lot of punks in that scene were making pilgrimages to go
Oh,
see John Wayne
really?
Gacy in prison.
He
'Cause
was a clown?
He dressed as a clown when he killed little boys.
Wait, what?
Yeah, and he buried him in his basement. John Wayne Gacy, very
Yeah, you don't know
famous.
John
He's
Wayne
up
Gacy?
there.
No.
You don't know John Wayne Gacy? He's
No.
up there with Dahmer. He's like one of the most famous. Yeah, and he would volunteer at all these different youth things, and he was a pedophile, but he likes young men. So any young man, he'd see anyone in prison while he was still alive, if you were a boy.
No.
Oh, yeah. So a lot of different punks I knew would go in.
Visit?
Yes, go see him
Why?
for the story.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, he's already in prison. They're not condoning his murder. They're just like,
Well,
it's a wild experience.
okay, so she said, we talked about Christmas at the front of it, and she was saying how California isn't really Christmassy.
Right. She had some.
Wouldn't I understand?
Yeah, people hate California. What are you gonna do?
Well, no, I
They're
think
always coming for us.
I get it because I feel that about Australia. Like it's summer at Christmas. I don't
It
understand
is.
that.
That is really weird. Let's go to the beach, mate.
Yeah, and then what? Like I guess what I
Let's
wonder
throw a
is
shrimp on the tree.
when they go to Target,
Mm-hmm.
is the imagery still of snow and stuff? Like, is it like little Santas in snow?
Great question. Or is Santa in a
beach?
swimwear
Exactly.
with a big round belly?
I know. I want to know.
Jiggle, jiggle.
But he still lives in the North Pole, Santa. So
Yeah.
maybe you still see the snow.
Yeah, that would make sense.
But it's confusing.
I've asked David that. He said he's normally at the beach.
He is?
Yeah, the like New Zealand Christmas stuff. Santa's at the beach.
Oh,
That's so weird.
wow. Surf's up, Santa.
Is he in his Santa outfit, though?
I didn't get that specific.
Do you think there's a lot of shirts that have like Santa holding a surfboard and it says "Hang 10, Surf's up, Santa"?
Maybe. Okay, marriage rates in 1950 versus now. 70 years ago, a large majority of U.S. households, approximately 80%, were made up of married couples. In 2020, the proportion of households consisting of married couples fell to 49%.
Oh my gosh, almost half.
Yeah. Some of the major factors behind the long-term decline in the marriage rate have been female education and labor force participation, women's economic independence, and gender equality. America is always experiencing growing numbers of women and men living alone, as well as increasing unmarried cohabitation. In addition to the 15% of the U.S. adults living alone, no less than 1/4 of those aged 25 to 34 are living with an unmarried partner.
Can you believe you're out of that demographic now? Did that just sting a little bit?
I didn't catch it, but
Oh,
thank
sorry.
you.
Sorry.
But yeah, I sure am.
Yeah, I'm starting to leave demographics and it's crazy. Like even the main TV demographic, I think, is 18 to 49. Isn't that what it is?
Oh, I think.
Like whenever I say your share and I go,
The
well, that's the only
demo.
thing that they care. Yeah, the demo is, I think, 18 to 49. I've got like 2 years left.
Mm.
I gotta vote with my dollar while it counts because they'll stop monitoring me here shortly.
You're right. American attitudes about childbearing and marriage have also changed markedly. For example, whereas in 2006, about half of U.S. adults said it was very important for couples having children together to legally marry, by 2020, that proportion had fallen to 29%,
From what percent?
50%.
Okay, yeah.
Today, the proportion of U.S. births to unmarried mothers is about 40%, double the percentage in 1980.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes, so we're clearly on a trajectory. It'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see in 100 years what the results of the trajectory were.
It will be.
Yeah, I'm quite curious about it. I won't live to see it. Although I did read an interesting, occasionally I'll do my Apple News. Do you ever follow?
Very rarely, but yeah.
Very rarely, only on the toilet. It's like when I'm not interested in Instagram, so I check that out. And
Yeah.
I read a article in the National Geographic yesterday. I almost thought we should get the journalists on because
Oh.
it was all about aging and the breakthroughs that are happening.
Ooh.
I might live long enough to see. Things are happening.
300?
Well, they're saying like 125.
Wow. But like healthfully?
Yeah, part of it is like kind of arresting the aging process.
Wow.
And so, I already know I'm more than halfway through life, which is a very bizarre thing that you're
Not
still
necessarily.
Not necessarily, but odds are, 96, that would be an eternity for me to hit 96, especially given genealogical history.
Knock on wood.
So I'm pretty mentally prepared that I'm already on, the back
second.
half
Oh,
and
God.
less than the back half, And then I was like, wow, well, hold on. If I lived to 125, I'm like only a third of the way through.
That's exciting.
Yeah, that was like, whoa, I went from like I'm 60% of the way through to maybe a 30% of the way through. That's enormous.
Wow.
I was like, I got to go back to work. I was only planning to have money until I was like, 85, but now I got to think about.
I think you'll be all right. But that's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. And by the way, this is National Geographic. This is no bullshit.
This is a .org.
It wasn't Inquirer or something.
Yeah.
Or whoever said I'm in the hen pack to pack.
Right.
They all keep using like 10 years out. If we arrest my aging at 58, that's not terrible.
No.
I'm okay with that. You'll be arrested at 45.
That's ideal.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's 3 years ago for me.
Yeah.
Think about me 3 years ago. I was virile. And,
I know.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
yeah. That was
You,
great.
it was ideal.
Yeah. That would have been great. I wish I could have arrested it then. Then I was having the fantasy. So what they can do in mice, which is insane,
Yeah.
they can make mice rapidly age, or they can stop their aging, and they can erase their aging, which is insane.
Wait. Oh, go back in time.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're going to be a
Holy-
baby?
Well, okay, great. Great point, Rob. So initially when they were doing the trials, that was the problem. They would erase it so
Too
far
Oh.
that their organs would start growing like they were a baby, and they would
they
get
die.
acromegaly really quick.
Oh.
So they had to figure out how to erase it
Small amount.
specifically, and they have done that in mice.
Holy
so then I was
shit.
thinking like, okay, let's say I could go back to an age. A, would I want to do that?
12.
7th grade.
And enroll at Muir Junior
Yeah.
High.
Oh my
Definitely.
God. This is ethically, what do we do about that? What if somebody does go back to 12, but
pervert?
actually they're
But what if they're
50?
fucking a 12-year-old at 70? Now it's even murkier.
Right. But you know what I mean? Like
I
if
do
you-
know what you mean.
Well, then,
Pedophiles
then-
undercover.
yeah.
Yeah. But if the pedophile's undercover and they're having sex with another pedophile undercover, like, so it's a 7-year-old woman as a 12-year-old and a 65-year-old man as a 12-year-old. Now we're in a fun Jonathan Haidt world.
I think either way it's fun because even if it's a regular 12-year-old who hasn't done anything with their age, okay?
Oh, right.
And then there's a
Their boyfriend's 12, but he's 65.
right, but is he 65? Like, is his brain
Yeah, he's been alive for 65 years,
His-
and he has memories of. Yeah, it doesn't erase your memories.
right in your brain? It's
Uh-huh.
just your physicality.
Yeah. Oh my God, what a good sci-fi movie. Wow. So then I started thinking, this is all in the toilet. It's amazing I don't have hemorrhoids. I'm on there for
Well,
so long
sometimes you
thinking
have
about.
them,
No,
right?
I've never had a hemorrhoid.
I thought you said you had
I had an
one.
anal fissure once. Let's be clear for
Oh.
the listening audience. I had an anal fissure, which is a tear up in your
Asshole.
rectum. Well, not on the asshole, in the rectum.
Sorry.
I mean, a couple inches up, I think. Oh, it's the worst. Yeah, they're very hard to heal. You have to basically,
Not poo.
which
You have to poo.
That's right. Anyways,
Especially you and your Metamucil.
we're in the weeds. This is pre-Metamucil. I should have been on Metamucil. Probably would have never had a fissure.
Oh, wow.
It was when I was, God, here we go. It was when I, now we're really talking about my fissure. That's what my exasperation was.
Sorry.
It was when I had done When in Rome and I had to get in crazy shape and I was eating virtually just protein,
Right.
which meant my stool
Oof. Not loose.
had the density of an anvil and I gave myself a fissure. Okay.
How many?
I don't know. It was a rough ride. This was a 3-month ordeal.
Oh.
Yeah, it was gnarly. I actually went to the doctor, which you know me, I won't go.
Yeah. What do they
After
do
a
for
couple
that?
put their nose up my ass. I mean, not their nose, but they were sniffing around
Ew.
fingers and looking and stuff. And he said, yeah, you have a fissure. He saw the tear in my.
Did he put any
I was
like
bent over.
Vaseline? Like what did he? How did he fix it?
He can't fix it. He just diagnosed it.
That's the worst kind.
Yeah, totally. Anyways, I got through that. That was decades ago.
Mm.
But then I was like, would I want to go back to a younger age? What do you think I should do?
No, I don't want
Do you think
to.
I should go back to 35?
No, I think that's weird.
I do too.
I think you should just stop when
Wherever
it
you're
happens.
at.
Yeah.
What about going back? I might go back 5 years.
Actually, I'd like to go back.
There we go. Now you got the wheels turning. What age are you going back to? High flyer?
No. I'll go back to 28. Physically. 27 or 28.
Well, 27 is what Stutz said. Is
I
like,
know.
Yes. I do think physically I was at my best at 27. Although I wasn't. I wasn't as muscular. I wasn't as in good a shape.
28 or 29 or 28 and a half. 28 and 3/4. I think that was my physical peak.
Okay. What about you, Rob? You gonna stay put or are you gonna dial it back?
I would stay put, I think.
Okay. Yeah, you're handsome as fuck. You shouldn't mess with anything. You should just freeze whatever you. Every time I post pictures of Rob, there's so many comments that are like, "Whoa, Rob's a babe." I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
get on the train, knuckleheads.
Exactly.
He's a fucking smoke show." Would you have considered yourself a smoke show in high school?
No.
Right.
I was always very short, too.
You were short.
I was short.
You were a late bloomer.
Yep.
How cute. I would have been friends with you and made sure no one stepped on you, Rob.
Did people step on you?
No, don't
Yeah,
step on me.
it doesn't seem like it.
I would have been friends with you. I would have thrown you way the fuck up in the air.
I wonder if you would have been friends with me.
Of course. You're clever. I was friends with a lot of popular overachievers like you. As long as someone had a sense of humor, I was friends with them.
Right.
Like Sassy was a cheerleader and she got great grades and she was popular. But she was funny. She liked to laugh in class. Did you like to laugh in class?
I passed notes.
There you go. But were you a little bit of a rascal? Like not enough to get in trouble, but were you like making fun of things and
Not to the teacher. Like not I mean
no,
to
but
my
would you be
friends.
making right? Like if you had a
with my
substitute and they had a
friends.
fucking weird cowlick and they were right? Would you let them have it between your friends?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but now I
Now you
hate
feel bad,
that. Yeah.
but tough shit. This is what you do in high school.
Okay.
So if you would have been up for, taking some shots,
we would have been friends because I could have been friends with anyone in high school.
that's not what I want to hear. Is that what you want to hear? I could be friends
Sorry,
with
I'm
anybody.
just-
Mine had a criteria.
just
You got to
trying
be
to-
clever and funny, and if you were funny and clever, then I was friends with you.
You're not understand. You took that the wrong way.
I sure did.
Jeez. I just saying if I wanted to be friends with someone,
You could.
so if like we were in wood shop,
Yeah.
then yeah, we would have been friends. You would have been my
Right.
wood shop friend.
That's right. And we
Dax.
would have fucked around. Like we would have shot pencils off the sander.
And I would have been excited to go to wood shop to hang out with you.
You know what I think you would have liked about me?
What?
Because you are a rascal and you went into comedy. This guy's like living out my id. Like this guy's my id. I get to watch him. He'll say the thing and he'll do the thing. I think you would have
Yeah.
got a kick out of that. Because it would make you so nervous to do the stuff probably yourself, but you had the thoughts.
But I wonder if at that time in my life I would have been like, that person has no control.
Oh.
Like because they can't stop themselves from saying the thing.
Well, I could.
I know, but then you weren't.
But no, well, I just made a calculated risk, I would argue.
Yeah.
Risk reward.
If me and you were talking and you were doing it, that I would like. But then if you
Right.
like raised your hand and then said something ridiculous, I might have been like,
What if it straight made you laugh your
why'd
ass
she
off,
do
though?
that? Well, then I would probably like it.
And that's the thing, I wasn't unaware. I had a
Yeah.
good track record. You were great at assessing friends. I was really good at assessing the breaking point of my teachers. And I just hovered upon and then the things I said had to be funny enough that I got away with
Yeah. That's
So
true.
I think I was a bit of a surgeon with it.
Yeah, I bet you were.
I also got in trouble, so I wasn't always.
Well, we were just learning.
But by high school, I had more figured out. Junior high was a mess. I apologize to all those teachers. I was straight up disruptive.
Right.
I valued making Aaron happy more than any other thing.
Yeah.
But in high school, I wasn't getting thrown out of class. I just want to be really clear so that you know who I was. I was
you
never the
were.
burnout going, fuck you. Like I wasn't.
know that. I
Okay,
know that.
okay, great.
I
Okay,
know
great.
that. Although sometimes I do imagine it like that. I know.
In junior high, yeah.
But also you told a story like you were smoked by the
But there was
window.
no there was no teacher in that
I know,
class.
but like,
Yeah.
it's you're telling me
I'm
one thing.
dancing on
and
razor blades.
you are. You
Yeah,
are.
yeah, yeah.
I don't think I can be in trouble
Smoking
for being
pot on the way
confused.
to school sometimes. Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay.
So
That was a tornado. I think when I'm here, well, I hope, in fact, this is where my sensitivity comes. What I'm telling you is I would like to have been friends with you. in high school. Would you have wanted to be?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I'm
Okay.
telling you, we'd be my woodshop friend.
Yes. We're such good friends now. I would think
Of
we could have a
course.
blast. What I like to think, I would have been your friend that's completely out of your friendship circle
Mm-hmm.
and into a bunch of different wild stuff.
Yeah.
And that we would have been bound together by cleverness
Yeah.
and comedy.
I'm sure. I love that fantasy. I
Okay,
think that's fun
Okay.
and possible.
And I ought to beat that kid up who said the thing about Dairy Queen.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely didn't have anyone
Ready to.
ready to throw down for me. That's for sure.
So that would have been a great
You know what?
pleasure. You
There
did?
was no, I didn't.
Oh.
There was this one guy. Everyone was so hot for him,
Okay.
and he was tall, and
Okay.
he was kind of gangly. I think.
Doofusy like me.
I- No, you're way more handsome than him. Although I wonder what he looks like now. I'm curious.
I bet he's gorgeous.
He might be.
He should not go back in time.
No, but I remember thinking, I'm not understanding this. Like,
How everyone's into this guy.
yes,
Yeah.
because it wasn't just everyone was into it. Huge fights over him.
Was he popular?
No, that's what's
Uh,
interesting. He was like a
An
little
outlier.
bit of an outlier. He was, and a little bit scary.
Rebel.
He was a rebel. And maybe that's why I didn't understand, because I was like, that feels unsafe to me or
But
something.
it really feels unsafe because you had an opposite approach.
Yeah.
Which is like blend in.
course.
What the person was doing was your nightmare.
Yeah. But I
Sticky
think, but he like also like drank and stuff. And
I'm
I
getting hotter for him as the more you tell me
like
about
all my friends dated
it. Do you know
him.
what he drove?
No, I don't know.
Oh, fuck.
All my friends dated him, and they all got in fights over him.
Oh, did other
I bet he
popular
was
did
you.
football team boys want to fight him because the girls liked him and he wasn't popular?
I
Because
don't-
that's kind
I
of that
don't
was
know about.
my cross to bear.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm sure they were thinking that. I don't know if they
They're like, he doesn't even play football. He's supposed to play football.
yeah. His name was Matt. Anyway, but so I bet you would be like him. But then so when he was dating all my friends, I became friends with him because
Oh.
of this.
Okay.
And you're standing outside the movie theater and then you talk. and
Yeah.
stuff. But, like I got it.
Okay.
It's like,
They
oh,
clicked.
he's funny and charming.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was his name?
Matt.
Good job, Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to get
I
an
think he
update
got
on
kicked
him.
out.
Oh, oops. He went a little too far. He wasn't as good at evaluating
Yeah, the
breaking,
line.
the critical mass. And then Wobby Wob, you and I would have been friends because you were super into bands and I was super into bands.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. We would all been friends.
I wonder if Wobby Wob and I
No,
would have been
you guys
friends.
wouldn't have been friends. I'm
well,
sorry. I hate to say
were
it.
you goth?
No. No. Not in high school, no.
I bet we would have.
I
I
was
bet.
just like an art kid.
Well, maybe because theater. Like maybe we would have crossed
He
paths.
wasn't
there.
into theater. You were even you weren't into
No,
theater.
but there was crossover within. Like,
Yeah, sometimes
sure.
there's crossover.
Yeah. They're outcasts.
Well,
The theater kids and the art kids and the punk rock kids, those are outcasts.
yeah, that's so
Michigan?
cliche. Like it-
I was straight up cliche. I mean, any
Yeah.
movies like Breakfast Club, that was my school to a T.
yeah,
Yeah, there was no jocks in art class.
really.
Or,
I mean, we definitely had jocks, but we all the theater
The theater.
had all kinds, like popular kids.
Oh, wow. Not in mine.
Some indie art.
It was a unifier.
Yeah, and there was this cute boy.
Oh.
He was on the wrestling team,
Oh, and he was
and then his mom died.
and you loved that. Yeah. Yeah. Of
I
course.
mean, I hated it.
I know, but you loved it.
Yeah,
'Cause you
because I
could
already
nurture
and he
it.
was
And then you
a
felt
couple grades
terrible
above
for
me.
him.
It was really funny.
Oh my God. He's
And then he got
older,
really
too.
sad.
And he was so sad,
Oh
of
my-
course.
And strong. Wrestlers are the strongest. Those football players don't know what they're talking about. Wrestling's where the
Actions.
Steel.
My friend Robbie was on the wrestling team.
yeah.
also.
Oh, and he's in town, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to wrestle him. Tell him.
Okay, one thing. She says that there's a line from Desperado, but I think she is mistaken. The line that she's referring to is from Bobby McGee, a Janis Joplin song, written by Chris Christopherson.
Chris, one of the highwaymen.
The line about freedom in Desperado is freedom, that's just some people talking. Your prison is walking through this world all alone. But this one she said is freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose.
Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. Nothing, and I'm nothing around and they do.
Is that from Bobby
Yeah,
McGee?
Bobby McGee.
Yeah. I never heard that.
Christopherson had a lot of songs that he sang them and they weren't hits, and then he gave them to people and they were huge hits.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Yeah, I always think, I wonder how that feels when you're a
Sad.
singer-songwriter and they're never hits when you sing them. But it's like
Right.
you write it, you
I
sing
know.
it, it's not a hit. Then you give it to somebody and then it's an enormous hit. And you're like, I guess it's me. Yes, that's what you have to conclude is I guess it's me
As a singer
as a
or
performer.
yeah. Huh. Interesting.
Now, there's obviously cases where it goes the other way, where the person's already so esteemed, then they give it to somebody and it's really cool. Like Prince giving Nothing Compares to Sinead O'Connor and it becoming the biggest song in the world. I wonder if
He
we would have been
wrote
friends
it?
with him
He
in high
wrote
school.
it?
Yeah.
He did? I
Uh-huh.
didn't know that.
Yeah. He has a version of it too.
I would not have been friends with him in high school.
Well, I just said that.
Yeah, I'm answering you.
I don't know if anyone could be friends with him.
I think I wouldn't have because I would have been afraid his otherness would make me look other.
Sure. And he is so sexual. I mean, he's the most sexual man to ever live, other than Rick James. And ironically, they hated each other. And they
Yeah.
toured
Do you think
together.
at that age he was?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Are you thinking about having sex with Prince?
No,
I just don't know where you're
I
at
was
right
just
now.
thinking about all of us in high school with Prince there.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
It's
what a
wild.
high school, you know?
Yes.
What an
Wild, wild.
experience.
I would love to find out who he was in high school. Because I mean, look,
Did he
was
go?
he was 1 foot tall. Like he was
Right.
so tiny.
He was like Robbie Rob.
He was like, no. He was like 96 pounds or something.
Right.
He had,
Yes.
he had a full afro.
Yeah, in high school.
Yeah, he played basketball.
Oh,
He no,
at
wait.
5 foot tall, he
Wait.
played basketball.
In
Wait,
junior,
that's a
junior
joke.
high.
Oh, in junior high,
Oh.
that's
Photo of him in
possible,
junior
but
high.
not in high school. You got to be Spud Webb to be able to play at 5 foot in high school. But I think a lot of people like Prince. They make a goddamn decision at one point, right? Like
100%.
like Machine Gun Kelly.
Yeah.
Remember, like you create an image,
Mm-hmm.
and I wonder, like pre him being Prince, I bet it was
Who was he? And who were his parents?
that's curious.
Yeah.
The way he sings about them, they sounded addicty and
Oh, they
stuff.
did.
Like, but I shouldn't say that. I don't really know.
Anywho,
Yeah, go Dogs.
go Dogs, go Wildcats too. That's my high school.
Oh yeah.
What was your mascot?
I don't want to say go Vikings. I'd
I
love
was
to like.
Vikings too.
You were Vikings too.
And I was Wildcats for junior high.
Oh wow.
So go Wildcats, go Vikings. Wait, why don't you want to say it?
I mean, obviously at this point I should be over it, but I'm not. I don't.
You're not over it.
I didn't like my high school. Like, I was against
But what
my
about
high school.
Sassy?
Loved her. Well, that's what I'm about to say. I loved so many people I went to high school with. I
Yeah.
really did.
Yeah.
But I didn't like. I left Milford and went to Walled Lake Central. It was
Yeah.
much richer.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just really had the jock prom culture. I'm not rooting for the Vikings.
I agree. I'm kind of the same way.
Are you?
Kind of fuck the Vikings, but
Yeah, it's so
You
weird.
guys are so goth.
Like I don't have a single yearbook from high school. I never got one. Didn't want one. I don't want to be on that yearbook. I have all my junior high ones, and I look at them still. I always felt like a fish out of water there. I didn't feel like I was a Viking or the pep rallies. I was sitting there going like, oh my God. Well, and I participated that time. I had that big incident.
Well,
Hold on.
I know. I like what you did.
Okay.
I like what you did.
I think you were about to say I deserved it.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I
good.
wasn't gonna say you deserved it, but
Okay.
You definitely didn't deserve it, but you did do the incident.
Well, the inciting incident was that I played Tinkerbell in the
Yeah.
school, like my grade's little skit.
Yeah,
Now, that should be no problem.
it shouldn't.
Me with wings on and
I
a
love it.
headband on and a tutu and tights.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying fuck those people, because
Yeah.
it was just me doing that had the football team screaming, "You fucking faggot,"
Yeah.
as I ran by.
Yeah.
And then I dumped the whole bag of glitter on the football team,
Yes.
and they all chased me.
Yeah.
And the
And it
principal
was an
intervened.
incident.
It was an incident. So yes. So my reaction to it, I
Mm-hmm.
feel proud of.
Great.
Yeah, a bunch of dudes yelling F word
I'm
at me.
yeah. You're
But that was the
fine.
environment where, like, if you played Tinkerbell in the school skit, they were going to scream.
Yeah, that would have also happened at my school, most
Yeah.
likely.
Yeah, fuck
probably.
that, you
I
know?
know it's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's
Don't get me started.
bad. But
And get real. That's what it's like.
kinda.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
But
sure.
that doesn't mean you have to root for them. So we'll only root for the Wildcats.
And just think though, like, and think of the hate I was receiving with that, and
I
then you just think of the
know.
kids that were
It's
hiding their
horrible.
homosexuality in that school, and they were watching that whole thing,
Yeah.
and like what it confirmed exactly what they're afraid, you know.
Of course.
Yeah,
I am not saying everyone should like high school.
yeah, no,
That's
and
not
I'm not
my-
saying everyone should hate high school. I just that to me that perfectly exemplifies the school is that experience for me.
Yeah.
All the fucking jocks sitting in the front 2 rows.
Yeah.
Everyone's celebrating them. Everyone's putting on skits for them. Like there's kids that are going to the fucking finals for the art festivals.
totally.
No one gives a fuck. There's
Totally.
people in plays. There's kids in auto shop that are geniuses. And yet there's these fucking 16 dodos on roids. And that's who we're celebrating. I hated it.
Yeah.
Because they're colliding into each other on Friday night. And I love football, so it's complicated.
It's all perspective.
It is. It
It's
is.
all perspective.
Well, I love you.
I
Go
love you.
Dogs.
Go Dogs. Go Wildcats. And we'll leave it there.
Okay, great. We'll stop there.